Hi everyone. Let's try to create a load balancing solution. So the load balancing solution is provided by Azure is Azure Load Balancer. We have three more load balancing solutions, which is Application Gateway and Traffic Manager and CDN profiles. But this video specifically covers about how do we use a load balancing solution and which is nothing but the load balancer. So here I'll create two VMs, and one is which will host an Apache and another one which will host Nginx. And once we send a request to the load balancer public IP, once we send a request, automatically either it will be routed to an Apache or Nginx. So what I wanted to prove here is load balancer will is getting requests and it actually balances the load between the two VMs. So it's not the two backend pools here as what I'm showing, but it's actually that the requests which are coming from HTTP, I will create a load balancing rule and it will either be pushed to Apache or it will be pushed to Nginx. So let's assume this is an Apache and set of VMs and this is Nginx. So let us understand how we can achieve this functionality. So I'll go here to portal and I'll go and create a load balancer. So when you actually see in portal, you have four load balancing solutions. One is application gateway, front door, and traffic manager. I'm going and choosing a load balancer and I'll click on create here and I'll choose C India and I'll create LBC India. So a load balancer hyphen C India and it's in the central India location. I'll choose a basic SKU and the type I'll be choosing it as public. The standard load balancer is usually used for production workloads. So here it is actually giving us a documentation which is talking specifically what does the difference between a standard load balancer and a basic load balancer. Now if you see as per this backend pool, how many VMs can we add in a basic load balancer? It is 300 instances, whereas for a back when we go with a standard load balancer in backend pool, we can add 5000 VMs, and that is what they were trying to talk. And it is supports HTTPS health probe also. And the major part which you have to is you can have multiple front ends uh, for inbound and outbound too in standard load balancer, and they are actually assuring an SLA for a standard load balancer. For a basic load balancer, they are not promising any SLA. When I say who is promising that, it's Azure who is actually saying that if you're going with standard load balancer, I can assure you a 99.99 SLA. So let me go and create here. And so when we create a load balancer, what the first thing which we create is a front end config, IP config. So I'll go and create a front end IP config where the request will come. So LB PIP uh, or front end C India hyphen front end. And here I'll choose the public IP as it's a basic load balancer, basic SKU load balancer. This public IP will also be basic, and that is grayed out for you to even select. It's automatically selecting basic one. So here PIP C India will be uh, and I'm creating OK. I'm adding this one. So front end. Now what is a backend pool name you wanted to create? I'll choose the backend pool name as mm, web servers pool. And as of now, I'm not choosing any virtual network, and it is not mandatory to provide any virtual network at this point of time. And why do we have to provide virtual network? So in which virtual network set of VMs you wanted to take? So you can't randomly take VMs from another in whatever possible. You have to specifically in pool, you are going to choose only of a specific virtual network. And then we have a front end and we have a backend pool. But when a request comes, it has to be routed to this pool. Who is going to say that one? The load balancing rule, which we see is goes the one which will say. So here we're going to create a load balancing rule, and there we are going to say that web servers web, web apps rule. And here I'm going to say that the front end is a source and the backend pool is web servers pool. And if it receives request in 80 port, from 80 port in the front end, then send it to 80 port of the backend pool servers. And the health probe is used for ensuring that it will send a probe request to every service. The load balancer will have an health probe which will keep track of whatever VMs are healthy in that backend pool. So it doesn't send the reason why we have an health probe. So it doesn't send the request which is receiving to a unhealthy instance. So this will help in terms of sending the responses back to the customer. So here I'm going to keep web servers probe, and I'm going to choose HTTP here. Every interval of 5 seconds it has to send. I'm not choosing any session persistence at this point of time. I'm going to add it. I'm not even adding any outbound rules. So it is not giving us any chance of basic SKU is not giving us a chance to choose any outbound rule at this point of time. As per if here, if you see outbound rules, see, so it is available for standard load balancer. For a basic load balancer, we don't have an outbound rules. So I'm gonna click on create, and the validation has been passed. It's going to take around a couple of minutes. So load balancer got created. Now let's create a virtual machine. Usually in your production environments, you create machines from not from the base marketplace images, but the you'll have your own golden images from VM images. The previous videos, if you would have seen, I've just said about how we can create VM images, and we have even a playlist which specifically talks about how we can create VM images from PowerShell, CLI, and Portal. So let's go and right now create one virtual machine from the base marketplace image. So I'm choosing the resource group here. I'm going to mention Apache 01 and choosing Central India as the one, and spot instance is the one, and I'm going to choose trainer and provide the password as Indian at the rate 1234567. And in the networking point of view, I'm going to mention web servers NSG, and I'm going to add a rule 80 rule, and I'm mentioning allow HTTP, and I'm going to choose OK. And here I'm going to leave a public IP for the VM here itself, because I wanted to log in into the VM and wanted to check I wanted to install the Apache in it. But before I choosing a load balancer, I would like to even choose the availability set as the option, but as it's a spot instance, it is not allowing me to choose it. So I'm going to disable Azure spot instance, and I'm going to choose availability set here, and I don't have an availability set at this point of time. So I will choose avail uh, set C India, and the default domains are 2 and the update domains are 5. I'm good with this, and I'm going to networking. I'm gonna choose a load balancer solution, and that is L I'm going to choose LBC India, and web servers pool is the only one which is there in the backend pool in that. So I have another load balancer which is I'm not choosing that at this point of time. I'm going to click on next, and then I'm going to disable the boot diagnostics at this point of time. I'm going to create a virtual machine, and let me go ahead and create one. And I'll go back to this resource group, see India, and I wanted to see which has been. So going to delete this because it is gonna lead to confusion. We have virtual machine which got deployed in CNDRG. And similarly, let's deploy one more machine, which is Nginx. So I'm choosing CNDR here, Nginx 01, and I'm going to choose the availability set as an option here, and the availability set is I will set C India, and I'm going to choose password trainer Indian at the rate 1234567, Indian at the rate 1234567, and here I'm going to choose the web servers NSG. I'm going to leave the public IP of the VM as it is because I wanted to log into the VM and install Nginx in this VM. And I have to choose the load balancing solution, and this is LBC India, and the web backend pool is leaving it as uh, the same one, which is web servers energy LB pool, and I'm disabled the diagnostics logs, and I'm choosing to go and create. Click on create. So this is good. So let the deployment get started. It got submitted, and now the deployment is in progress. I'll go back to this VM and I'll try to log in. So I click on login. I'll go to the PowerShell SH trainer, provide the user IP address, and since the Apache hasn't yet started it, we see that 22 port is allowed. We don't have any problem with this. Okay, that is because it is actually showing the public IP of this. So if I go here, SH trainer. So it is, as I attach it to a load balancer, it is giving the load balancing IP, but as actually to use the public IP of the virtual machine. Now what just happened, if you have any doubts? So when we attach it to a VM, a load balancing solution, it will show the load balancer public IP. So if I go here and click on load balancer, the front end configuration of a load balancer is this is the public IP, and automatically when you attach a VM to a load balancer, that front end IP becomes the public IP of this machine. But as of now, the request of 80 port only will be routed. The rest will be not be routed anything. So, but as I'm trying to do SSH right now, it has initially failed because there is no for 22 port there is no load balancing rule as such. But when how did I log in right now to VM? If I go into networking solution, I still have a public IP. That's the reason why I still left, well, in creating a VM I still left the public IP of the NIC, and I went to the NIC and I copied that. This is the public IP in which the NIC will be it. The public IP will be attached to the NIC of the so, and through which I was able to log in and I'll install sudo. I will install the Apache here. I just updated the repositories and we are good. Now if I send a request to this public IP address, I should see Apache homepage in this. As of now, there is nothing which is running in it. But if right now, if you see, I would able to see Apache homepage. Now, similarly, I'll try to log in inside the Nginx machine. So I'll go here, click on exit. I came out of this machine and I'm trying to log in into the Nginx, but still I did again the same mistake. I am going and copying the load balancer public IP. Why am I able to see? Because I connected this one VM to the load balancer. So here I'll go to the networking solution, and this is the public IP of the VM, which is attached in the NIC level point of view. So go and give the password, which is Indian at the rate 1234567, and I logged in. Now I'll install Nginx in that. Nginx. So meanwhile the installation happens. I'll use the same IP address of that NIC level public IP, and I will see. I see right now the welcome homepage to Nginx. So and now if I go to the load balancer, if you look at the backend pool, there is only one backend pool, which is web servers pool. If you see, there is only one backend pool, web service pool. In that one, we have two machines. One is Apache 01 and Nginx. So as per the diagram of the concept, when we are trying to the load balance, we configured a load balancer rule, which is saying that if you get a request from the front end port 80 port, then just forward it to 80 port of this backend pool. So web servers backend pool one is having an Apache, another one is having Nginx. So it has to send one request to this, another request it has to send it to Nginx. So when we try the public IP of, so I'll let me go and remove uh, the public IPs of each of these VMs. So how can I go and do it? I can go to the NIC level of a VM and where the public IP will be linked to a VM, right? So I'll disassociate and I'll save this. Similarly, I'll go to Apache and I'll similarly do the same thing. Now all for all these machines, the only front end right now will be the uh, IP address will be the public address of that load balancer. So now if you see the public IP address of the load balancer for both of the machines, you are seeing it here. And if I send a request, it went to first to Apache, which is nothing but the Apache server. Now if I try to refresh, it should show Nginx. So because of cookies, it is only showing Nginx Apache. But if you I try right now, it went to Nginx. Now I try here, it goes to Nginx. Now next time I try, it goes to Apache. And if I try again, it will show Nginx. So that is how we can actually utilize. So if you're using session persistence, your request will be only sent to one specific VM, because when you use session persistence, it tries to take the client it tries to take the client IP from the way the request is coming, and it also takes the protocol. So this makes the scenario more tougher if you're trying to make session persistence happen. But if you're trying to use session persistence as none, you will try to get to request different VMs request and everything. So this is how you play with the load balancers. And when you have a uh, what do I say, when you have basic queue. So standard will have few more things, but standard supports all the availability sets and everything. So here also I created VMs. So when you're using basic queue, don't forget that you have to choose availability set as an option. Otherwise, you will not be in a position to add the VMs to a basic queue load balancer. Whereas standard load balancer doesn't demands that, but equally the price would be a different one. So this is how we do it. Thank you.